The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 494 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
Star Wars newbies sitting down and watching this show, because it does sort of function almost as an introduction to the Star Wars galaxy.
I mentioned this to a bunch of friends my age, and they said the same thing. That's a Stephen King novel.
The girls are just getting S done. Like, they're just getting it done, and the boys are just kind of bumbling a little bit right now.
This is an exclusive, and it's a very fun one that I don't know if anyone knows this outside of Lucasfilm.
All right, I do have to mention one more little thing.
Okay, but make it wizard.
That's what I was gonna say!
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland.
Here we go!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets love.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never Land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! It's December. You know what that means? New Star Wars content!
Yay!
With the Skeleton Crew, we go back to only go forwards. But before we amble back to the 80s, we want to welcome everyone back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Oh, it's so nice and cozy and warm in here, and it's so cold outside. I love it. It's that time of year. It's the perfect time of year for the gift that is Skeleton Crew.
Yes.
Yay.
When you say cold, for LA, it's like 80.
Yeah.
Maybe 81 degrees?
In our house, it's colder.
Yes.
Well, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, and pop culture fandom. So it's time for your weekly Wookiee hug and your little sprinkle of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers. We are live right now on the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for notifications. And Richard, do you have an update on our subscribers?
Yeah, last week we had, I believe it was 9159.
Okay.
We asked Skywalkers to get us to 9165, and they got us to
9166.
9,166 subscribers.
Excellent. Oh, thank you, Skywalkers.
See, every week we ask the Skywalkers, can you give us a couple of more subscribers? And they deliver.
They do. All right, so next week we want to see 9175. How about that? I know that's reaching. It is reaching.
You know, with a lot of Skeleton Crew content we have coming out,
yes,
I think we can get 9
I think we
more.
can do it. I think we can do it because of Skeleton Crew.
Okay,
All right.
Yeah, and speaking of YouTube, not only do we have a lot of Skeleton Crew content on YouTube right now, but every week we are so happy to give you our Skywalking trivia video. And this is like a 6 to 7 minute video with 10 questions of pop culture. And this week, it's all about the numbers. Yeah, you don't need to know math, just a fairly good knowledge of pop culture timelines.
Oh, okay. Well, in this episode, Mike Celestino from Who's the Bossk podcast and Laughing Place joins us to break down Skeleton Crew, which just premiered on Disney+. So we give our reactions, we go through the many, many, many Easter eggs, and how this show parallels the coming-of-age films of the 80s. And yes, there will be spoilers, FYI.
All right, now we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can book your trip to a Disney park around the world or on a Disney cruise or as we're finding out now, to Universal Studios.
Yes.
Which we'll be calling you very, very soon. And best of all, this service is free of charge. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on December 2nd, 2024. All right, Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Well, first of all, we're going to say hello to our friend Racy Stacy, who just chimed in here on the Sky Chat.
Awesome.
Stacy is here. Oh, and Glenn Stein is here as well.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Welcome.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so on this date, December the 3rd, but 1983. That was 41 years ago. From Star Wars to Jedi, the making of a saga airs on PBS. And this is a 65-minute documentary narrated by Mark Hamill and features behind-the-scenes footage of the original trilogy, but really focuses on Return of the Jedi.
Oh, wow.
And I remember this date very clearly back in 1983, where my friends and I were at Fun and Games, which is the big arcade place. Remember arcades?
Oh, yes.
And we were looking at our watch until finally, okay, if it's on at like 5 o'clock, I think, we had to get out of there by 3:38 to make it home. And we jumped in. My friend of mine had a car, jumped in there and just bulleted home so we could watch From Star Wars to Jedi, the making of a saga. And this special focused a great deal in the creature effects shop. And I knew it was then that I wanted to become part of that world. Everyone looked like they were having so much fun. They were creating these monsters and creatures. And when I finally did get to work in a creature effects shop in the 90s, I felt right at home and I could walk the walk and talk the talk. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I knew stuff like foam latex and injection foam and foam running. And I knew how to talk the talk, but what that meant, I didn't know. But as I started to do it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. The stuff I'm doing right now in this creature shop is what I saw from Star Wars The Jedi.
Wow.
And as Darth Vader says, the circle is now complete.
Wow.
And not only did it focus on the creature effects shop, it also focused on John Williams.
Ooh.
John Williams took a course in Ewokese from Ben Burt.
The voice is going to be sped up a little bit or raised in pitch, the way these have been. If you start out with an average human voice, mine or Jim Bloom, and you raise it in pitch, it tends to sound a little like Chip and Dale. But it's easier to get a foreign language and to have someone speak it and make it come across as a real language than just to make one up. Because when you make one up, it tends to sound like English, just rearranged phonemes. Right.
So it's great to see John Williams and Ben Burt talking about sound.
Yeah, and John Williams actually getting schooled a little bit. Which is so funny because he seems like the master everywhere he goes.
What did you do? We're lost. Really lost. Stay together. We just need some directions home.
Come on, kid. Pay up. Whoa. Where'd you two find an old Republic credit?
A new 80s style Star Wars series was announced in early 2022, starring Jude Law. However, it was a while until the first images were revealed as well as the trailers. But finally, Star Wars Skeleton Crew is here.
The first 2 episodes premiered on Disney Plus on December 2nd to rave reviews. Back with us is Mike Celestino from Who's the Bossk podcast to help us break down these episodes. And yes, there will be spoilers.
Attention Skywalkers. Spoilers ahead.
Warning! Warning!
Attention Skywalkers. Spoilers ahead.
Warning! Warning!
Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead.
Hey, Mike! There he is.
Hey, guys. Great to be here. As always, thank you so much for inviting me back on the show.
As always, we love how you do all your homework. And you know your Star Wars lore. And if ever we have questions about the High Republic, it's like, okay, who do we call? Mike? I don't know. Are there any kind of High Republic attachments or any kind of connections with Skeleton Crew?
Mm.
We'll find out later on. But first,
Mm-hmm.
we want to see how you're doing. Looked like you were hobnobbing with the cast and crew of Skeleton Crew at Disneyland last night.
Well, you said I do my homework, and that is accurate because I've seen these episodes 4 times each now, so I do feel prepared to talk about them. But yeah, I happened to be at Disneyland for work yesterday when they were setting up for the big Star Wars Skeleton Crew launch event. They had a red carpet, although there was no actual carpet. The red carpet area was in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge near the Millennium Falcon, and they had the droid SM-33 out there. They had the RX series bus driver droid out there. And while they were setting up, if you were a guest in Galaxy's Edge, you could just go up and take your photo, have your photo taken with them as like a little bonus photo op. They did shut that area off later on in the evening when the red carpet arrivals started, but I guess like to as a gift to the guests and the fans that were happened to be there that day, they kind of had a special surprise little photo op for Skeleton Crew in Galaxy's Edge. And then I know they that evening after the red carpet, they went over and had the screening premiere of the first 3 Tomorrowland Theater, which is famously was famously home to Captain EO, which has some connections to Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So I think that's probably why they chose to have the premiere there at the park.
No, they said that the RX droid was out there on display. Did he have the gum on the back of his head?
You know, I immediately texted. You guys know Nick Tiers,
Yeah.
mutual
Oh, yeah.
friend of ours. I texted him the photo of me with the RX droid, and then right after I sent that to him, I said, I forgot to check if he had gum on the back of his head. I really should have looked at taken a photo of his backside too, but I was just when you get excited to be there and be around stuff like that. And I would have felt very guilty to like go through again because they did have it like you had to kind of queue up in front of the Millennium Falcon to like get your photo taken with the droids and stuff. So I would have felt odd to go through again, but I regretted that moment.
Oh, Mike, next time you have these feelings, give us a call, okay? We'll talk you through it.
Yeah,
Mike, keep on
okay.
going. Do it. Do it, Mike. Do it. So who did you happen to run into?
Oh yeah, just walking around the park. So when I arrived, I came in through downtown Disney as I often do, and I walked past Doug Chiang, longtime Star Wars concept artist going back to the prequel trilogy, and I think he was the chief creative officer for a bit at Lucasfilm, but I'm not sure what exactly his title is now. But yeah, definitely hugely involved with the current look of like modern era Star Wars. Just walking through downtown Disney, I just kind of nodded at him as I passed him, and then I went into the Grand Californian Hotel where I was taking pictures. So for my job, I cover theme parks, as you guys know. And I was taking pictures of the Christmas decorations in the Grand Californian lobby. And as I was leaving, first of all, I was wearing a Star Wars Skeleton Crew shirt.
Oh.
So as I was leaving, I hear a little kid go, "Hey, I love your shirt." And I turn around and it's Robert Timothy Smith, I believe is his name,
It's just
who
Neil.
plays Neil on the show. And he was there with his dad, obviously there for the big event that day. And I showed him because I knew that the event was happening. So I had brought my Lego minifigures of all the kids from Skeleton Crew. And I showed him, I was like, I have Neil on me right now. And we took a photo together. It's on my Instagram of me with Neil in Lego minifigure form. He was super, super nice. And then later on, as I was just walking around Galaxy's Edge, I saw Dave Filoni just being given kind of not a guided tour, but he did have a plaid, like we call the
VIP tour guides?
Yeah, it was just him and a tour guide, a Disneyland cast member walking around the marketplace looking at all the shops. And I wasn't going to bother him, but I went into Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities a little bit later, and he was in there kind of chatting with other fans and taking photos with them too. So I was like, I might as well say hi. And I told him I saw the first 3 episodes and I really loved them, and he complimented me on my shirt as well. And I did take a photo with him. He doesn't. I feel like this is the second time I've taken a photo with Dave Filoni, and he never looks like terribly enthused to be in the photo.
Well,
Someday
he's
I'm
working
gonna.
on like 15 different series at one time, so I'm sure he's just so tired.
He's a busy guy.
It's like, where am I right now?
It's like dazed.
Robert Timothy Smith looks a lot more enthusiastic in my photo. But
Okay.
yeah, it was really cool to see. And then I did stick around to watch the red carpet arrivals a little bit later, and I saw Nick Frost, I saw Jaleel White, I saw Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau show up, and John Watts and Christopher Ford, the creators of the show. I didn't stay around long enough to see Jude Law, as I never saw him. And I think the kids might have been there, but they were all like too short to pop up above people's heads from where I was, from my vantage point. I could definitely see Dave Filoni's cowboy hat.
Now, Mike, I'm going to correct you here. You said that Dave Filoni didn't look too happy to be seen in the photo with you. I'm looking right now, and come on, this is one happy fella. Look at him.
He was thrilled. He loved it.
Yeah, come on, that looks great.
That's a Dave Filoni smile. If I ever saw a Dave Filoni smile.
He never
Fair
cracks
enough.
his teeth. It's fine.
He's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So did they do anything at Galaxy's Edge, or was it just like a big photo op, then they were ushered to the theater?
Basically, they were using Galaxy's Edge as, like, if you go to a premiere at the El Capitan Theater, they have the step and repeat set up on Hollywood Boulevard. That was what they were using Batu for, as like the backdrop for the photos of the celebrity arrivals and the interviews with the. I couldn't even tell what media. Like, I saw ABC7 was there, so that's Disney owned. Obviously, they got invited, but I couldn't tell like what other media. It was probably all, major news outlets that were there. No fan media that I could tell.
Yeah,
Right.
ABC, is that a podcast? What is this?
Yeah.
It's a network.
After the guests were allowed to take photo ops, when they started setting up for the red carpet proper, they brought out a life-size Neil statue I saw, and a puppet of a character that doesn't show up until the third episode that people have not seen yet. But that character is in the poster, one of the posters. So I was like, well, should I even mention this?
So
The puppet of
Kim.
Yeah, Kim.
the owl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, how fun. Oh, that would have been amazing. Okay.
That was out there too, but that wasn't there when I was able to go up close to see that stuff.
Okay.
Wow.
How fun.
Yeah, we were over at the El Cap Theater in Hollywood.
But it was really
how'd that
fun.
go?
There was so many people there that we knew, which was awesome. So it
Yeah,
was fun
and-
to see friends.
Great.
And a lot of the legacy effects crew
Yes.
were there.
Mhm.
So while you got the cast and crew,
Yeah.
we got the creature effects people.
Right.
Come on.
And they had their crew jackets on, they looked like Neil's jacket, like Neil and Wim's
from the
jackets
school.
from the school, with like the brown jackets with the little patch on it. It
And
was
they-
really
That's
neat.
great.
And they
See
were
up close.
so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
They were, whenever a creature would come up, they would scream and yell, and that's the kind of audience you want to see, with a very enthusiastic crowd. They weren't disruptive; they were just being very enthusiastic, which is great when you're seeing a new Star Wars show, and we're yelling at all the Easter eggs. They're yelling at all the creatures.
Yeah. And also, so what they had for Skeleton Crew was just the step and repeat backdrop. That's like literally the only thing. And posters. They gave us posters that had Skeleton Crew on one side and Mufasa on the other.
So
A double-sided poster.
if you don't have one of these, they give us like a big, thick stack of
They're like,
these.
how many do you want?
It's like, we can't go home until we give you these all out. It's like, okay, give them all over here.
was
We have
funny.
Skywalkers who want these.
Yeah, but other than that, you could take a bunch of photos with Moana backdrops because that's
Okay.
what they're showing at El Capitan right now. But yeah, once again, Richard, you had said that it was fun to watch with a big crowd, and I feel like I'm trying to think. One of my favorite moments in the film was just some of these looks that like Neil had, like when Neil made side eyes at the little alien girl that he likes. All the crowd went oh and like laughed and things like that. It was just adorable.
Yeah, I think Neil got the biggest reactions from
Yeah.
everyone last night.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He seems to be the breakaway character so
Yeah.
far.
Oh, yeah. I think he had been since the early days.
Oh yeah.
Now let's go back to those early days. back in 2022, this was first announced. Skeleton Crew is going to be another new Disney Plus show. So when they did announce this, Mike, what did you think about Skeleton Crew? With the little information that they gave us.
Yeah. I believe I was in the room either when they announced it or when they first started giving us more information about it. I forget actually if it was at D23 Expo or at Star Wars Celebration. I'm
Me
sure it was
too.
one of those.
It was
Yeah.
that Star Wars Celebration where they announced the title for
Okay.
Skeleton Crew. But it was first announced in February of 2022 in a magazine about this new
Oh.
80s style show.
Okay. I remember John Watts and Christopher Ford coming on stage and talking about the influences on this series. And I don't think they used the word Goonies, but they talked about Amblin 80s kid adventure movies, and that made my mind go to Goonies, which is one of my absolute favorite movies that I grew up on. I'm such a big Goonies fan that I have made a pilgrimage to Astoria, Oregon, and I made my wife like take me to all the locations where they shot the film, and I tried to like recreate shots and scenes from the Goonies when we visited up there. So Goonies plus Star Wars, I was on board pretty much immediately. And I believe they also incorporated inspiration from other films of that period, like E.T. They've talked about E.T. and basically just the tone and spirit of the 80s kids adventure film, which is, I was born in 1979, so I was alive for the entirety of the 80s, and this is exactly up my alley and exactly what something I never knew that I wanted out of a Star Wars series, but definitely appeals to me.
Nice.
Yeah, when they first started mentioning all this in a connection with Goonies, we were like, we haven't seen Goonies in a while.
Yeah.
And then like a month ago, we watched the Goonies just to see the parallels. And after watching the Goonies, we thought, we're no longer excited about the Skeleton Crew.
Oh no! Well,
just-
seeing it as a kid is much
Yeah, it's
different.
much
I think
different,
we
yeah.
needed to see.
And
Goonies
I know
more
this
as
is a
kid.
very unpopular thing to say, but wow, that was a hard movie to get through as an adult.
As an adult.
Yeah, so
I do think the Goonies is one of those movies that if you didn't grow up on it, there's no way you're going to like it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was 16 when Goonies came out, so I was a little too old for the Goonies. I was very excited that they're gonna use nostalgia for the next Star Wars show, and they're gonna have a lot of 80s tropes. Even though I wasn't a big Goonies or Amblin fan, I knew what tone they were gonna go for, the whole coming of age, the whole adventure aspect of it. So that's what really got me excited about Skeleton Crew. Then they mentioned the title Skeleton Crew, and that turned me off because it's a well-known Stephen King novel. And I just thought, wait a minute, you can do better than this, can't you? And that's, I'm going to say I love the Skeleton Crew. I love the series. I still want to call it Star Wars Pirates.
Maybe for a certain generation, but I
Maybe-
had never
maybe
heard
so.
of this.
Maybe so.
This book, I had never heard of that. So I think Skeleton Crew is a cool name because it's got a dual meaning. You have Skeleton Crew, which is like manning a giant ship with a small amount of crew, which is exactly what they're doing.
I get that. I get that.
And then
but
Skeleton Crew also means like pirate.
I mentioned this to a bunch of friends my age, and they said the same thing. That's a Stephen King novel.
Like you guys, I wasn't really sure what to expect. The announcements came really fast. I remember John Watts and Chris Ford being ushered on stage, and Jude Law came out, and it's like, okay, and now that announcement's over. And I wasn't even sure if it was animated or live action, that first announcement. I was very confused because it sounds very like an animated show would be good for this kind of a thing as well. But overall, it was the trailers that really brought me in, and seeing Neil. I mean, come on. So I think we should let's jump to our initial thoughts on the first two episodes. So episode 1 is This Could Be a Real Adventure, and episode 2 is Way, Way Out Past the Barrier. There will be spoilers for these episodes, FYI. All right, Mike, initial thoughts.
Honestly, until you said the titles right now, I didn't realize that these episodes had titles because I've only watched them on the screeners that they sent us, and those did not have titles. So it's fun to know that there are titles for this series. And the other thing I want to mention is one of the very first things that John Watts and Christopher Ford said at that presentation about Skeleton Crew was that this is a series that stars kids, but it's not necessarily made for kids. Okay, so I agree with that. I think it is tonally appropriate for all ages, and it appeals to both fans of Star Wars and fans of those 80s kids action adventure movies. But also, I could definitely see Star Wars newbies sitting down and watching this show because it does sort of function almost as an introduction to the Star Wars galaxy because that's what these kids are going through in this show. So yeah, I can picture an entire family of people who have various levels of interest and experience with Star Wars sitting down and enjoying this together. And honestly, after having seen 3 episodes from the screeners, I am kind of in love with this show. Like I said, it's right up my alley as far as like the appeal goes, but I think they totally nailed the tone and the spirit of what they were going for. The characters are really appealing and endearing. The actors are wonderful. The direction is great. There's a mystery aspect to it that I'm sure we'll talk about in a little while that I find really intriguing. And I love the world building and the Star Wars lore that they have incorporated, and just the dozens and dozens of Easter eggs that I'm sure we're going to talk about in a bit as well. If
Yes.
you go to Laughing Place, you can find I did 2 posts about these first 2 episodes, listing through. I think I got to 35 plus of these 2 episodes, first 2 of the Easter eggs, both to Star Wars and other pop culture. But yeah, this is it's really kind of a home run for me so far. I'm really into it and I'm really excited to see more.
As soon as they started talking about pirates in the
Yeah.
trailers and the description, I was leaning way in. Like, okay, Star Wars has always been associated with pirates from the very, very beginning, going back to Crimson Jack in the classic Marvel Star Wars comics. So that's what got me really excited. And then seeing the big display at D23 of the big array of pirates, including the Wolfman character.
And the pirate with the 3 stalks, eye
Yes,
stalks, and
yeah,
with one
the
stalk cut
Gand.
off and a eye patch.
Yeah,
Come on, that
at-
was amazing.
At that point, this excited me more than following the coming of age story of these kids. That again said, this is going to really heavily be influenced by nostalgia. When it comes to nostalgia, come on, I am right there. And knowing that John Watts and Chris Ford were at the helm, who just did the Spider-Man movies, I was all on board because I knew that they had earned a Star Wars series. And these guys knew what they were doing. And I knew that they had a love for Star Wars. And I knew that them plus Dave Filoni, the Easter eggs were just becoming full force. You know what? Forget Star Wars Skeleton Crew or Star Wars Pirates. Call it Star Wars Easter eggs. Yeah, because these came fast and furious, and The Mandalorian had a ton of Easter eggs. This had more than ever, and I know we're just talking about the first 2 episodes, but the third one, boom!
Can't talk about that yet.
Not just yet.
But
All
yeah.
right, Sarah.
My initial thoughts, to me, this definitely feels like a classic Wizard of Oz adventure. And that's on the brain, since Agatha All Along series was a Wizard of Oz thing. We just watched Wizard of Oz. So the kids, they're in their seemingly safe planet, which that is in the description for the show. They are in a seemingly safe planet. That's interesting right there. That's a mystery box.
That's a red flag.
Yeah. All right. And, we get to see their daily life, but then they are whisked away against their will, which Dorothy is whisked away by the tornado. They're whisked away by this pirate ship, and it goes off into hyperspace. Like, that was the most surprising moment for me. It was on autopilot. It gets in the air, and then it just flies off to hyperspace. It's like, oh no, they're not going to be able to find their way back. And so like Dorothy, they're trying to find their way home all throughout this adventure. But I love that this series turns it on its head, that their home is actually the X marks the spot on the treasure map for the rest of the galaxy. Like, I think that is so cool. And then I think one of my other favorite things about this series is that I love that there are two sets of best friends. You have the girls and you have the boys. And they're also girls versus boys. They don't like each other at first. And that gives them some place to go because they have to learn to work together. But it's just endlessly relatable. As people who've grown up with, you have your group of girlfriends and ew, boys are gross, blah, 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 And
boys are like, girls, they're scary.
I know, yeah, see, exactly. And then I love that the girls are in typical guy roles in many 80s movies. So you have like Fern is your total bad boy. That's what she is. And then KB is the tech nerd. She's your Egon. She's your Geordie LaForge. She's all those guys. Oh, she's also Data from the Goonies. Yeah.
Yep.
So I love that. And the girls are just getting done. Like, they're just getting it done. And the boys are just kind of bumbling a little bit right now. Now, I'm sure they're going to prove their worth. But it just kind of makes sense because what are they, 10, 11?
10, yeah.
Yeah, and so like girls at this point are more mature just in general. So, but I'm sure the boys will grow, and I'm excited to watch where this goes and their relationships too.
This is what I love about the Disney Plus series rather than the feature films.
Yes.
Because you really get to know these characters. The first episode, I think this 56-minute episode, we got pretty much everything we needed to know to move forward and to grow a connection with these characters where now there's stakes.
Yeah.
I read one review that said the stakes are very low. The show was fun, but the stakes are low. I don't get that because I think knowing the characters at this point after that first episode, the stakes are very high because they're kids, because you know where they come from, you know their fears, their anxieties, you know their skill sets. I think this is exactly what Star Wars needs moving forward so we can know all these characters. And I just love it. After that first episode, I am connected to each and every one of those kids.
I also feel like when I hear the stakes are low, that feels like a positive to me. When it comes to Star Wars, I'm tired of world-ending laser weapons. I do want shows and movies that are more character focused and where the stakes are more about where are these characters going to end up and what's going to happen to them rather than we got to save the entire galaxy.
You know what? Okay, there you're right. There's no politics and war. There's no taxation. There's only I got to get to school to take this test.
Yeah. I overslept. I mean, how many of us have dreamed about that?
Comparatively speaking, yes. Okay,
how many
now
of
the
that have
stakes
happened
are
to
low.
them? Oh, that's happened to me at a test. Like I've been woke up 10 minutes before the test and I'm like, oh no.
But Hosnian Prime was just destroyed, but I'm going to be late for school.
What a good point.
Now, you were a representative for Skywalking Through Neverland at the press roundtables with the creators and the kids. What kind of highlights did you glean from that?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to fill in for you guys with that press junket. It was a lot of fun getting to talk with the creators and the cast of Skeleton Crew. I'm a toy collector, as you guys know. So my first question for the kids had to be, what was it like to have both Hasbro action figures and Lego minifigures based on their characters, which I thought that was a really fun response.
It's crazy. I mean, I never imagined. I mean, I've always played with these toys, and now the fact that we actually have toys of our own about our characters is insane, and I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I mean, the first time I actually saw like a prototype of Fern, I cried. I started bawling my eyes out. It was like such a surreal moment, and this like all becoming real so fast.
When I
Sorry.
Okay, when I unboxed the Lego for the first time with the ship and all the little mini characters with Jod, I was so excited. And then when I was looking at the Lego handbook, I got to see like the little sparkle of the character being built, and I saw mine. I was like, oh my gosh! And I showed it to my whole family, and it was really exciting.
Yeah, no, Lego along with Star Wars has been a huge part of my life too. My sister and dad love Legos and love building Legos, so you know I've grown up alongside both of them, and now combined with me in it, it's so crazy to witness.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's been said time and time again, and you asked John Watts and Chris Ford, this show is for adults, even though it stars kids. And Kathleen Kennedy has gone on and on about how the Goonies and even Skeleton Crew is not a show for kids. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because what I said earlier, when I was 16 years old and the Goonies came out, I thought I was too old for that. I can't say an adult in 1985 going to see the Goonies. It's going to be for kids, because kids can look up at the screen and go, hey, that's me. That's what I want to be. And they can project this whole image of themselves onto these characters. As an adult, you don't do that when you're watching kids.
I would agree that the Goonies was definitely intended for an audience that shared the same age as the characters. But when you look at something like Stranger Things, which I doubt Skeleton Crew would have happened if Stranger Things hadn't been a big success, but that's a similar type throwback to those, that era of 80s filmmaking. And I wouldn't call Stranger Things for kids, even though it does star kids. I think they are kind of targeting the age group that I belong to, which is kids that grew up in the 80s and are looking back on that period fondly. But like I said before, I do think it's appropriate. This show is appropriate for everyone, not necessarily Stranger Things.
Yeah, during the showcase panel at Star Wars Celebration 2022, Dave Filoni said that John Watts and Chris Ford said that this is much for kids as the Clone Wars. And Dave Filoni said, well, in the Clone Wars, we were cutting people's heads off. So no spoilers, but that hasn't happened yet. Who's to say what's going to happen in episode 4?
Someone shot their eye out, though.
That's very true. Oh, there's a Christmas Story reference right there.
Yeah.
You'll shoot your eye out, you Gand.
He had 2 extras. He had 2 other ones left, so he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite moments in these roundtables that you attended, Mike, you asked a question that came from Richard, which is the Star Wars Holiday Special Easter egg that we see in episode 1, where they basically had the circus from the Star Wars Holiday Special, the circus hologram, and all of Neil's siblings were watching it. And so, like, how did this happen? Was this a recreation? Was this taken footage? And here they are talking about it.
We thought we would maybe be able to use footage.
Yeah, we thought we might be able to use some pre-existing footage, but no, it was like way too low resolution and the wrong angles. We had to, recreate this moment from multiple angles because you see it in various parts of the scene. So we rebuilt the whole thing from scratch. We had to dig up the original designs for the costumes, which were in the Lucasfilm archive.
And our costume designer actually knew that costume designer and was able to figure out who had done it. And my gosh,
get all the original specs. We had to redo the music from scratch because there was no copy of the actual score anywhere. So we had to sort of rebuild that and
reorchestrate it out. It was so much work. We didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah, it ended up being like 20 times more work than we anticipated. And our stunt coordinator is the main performer in it, and he was able to re-choreograph the routine too because it's a very acrobatic routine. And he used to be in Cirque du Soleil as well, so that helped.
Yeah, so it all came together. But it was.
I will say, without saying what it is, which I think is probably pretty obvious by now, it was so much work, and it's so worth it. My favorite
I
part.
laughed really loudly when that happened.
Good.
Thank you.
That's what I still laugh when it comes on. Just when you start to hear that music, it just really cracks me up.
They seemed so excited to talk about this.
At the screening we saw last night at the El Capitan Theater, when that scene came on, everyone roared.
Mhm.
They were applauding, they were cheering.
That was fun.
Because everyone, at this point, they know what that's referring to.
That's pretty
And-
much how I reacted when I first saw it on my screener. I erupted in laughter and applause in my living room. So I'm sure that's happening all over the country with Star Wars fans right now.
And I've got a lot of messages saying, Rich, have you seen Skeleton Crew yet? You're going to love it. So, yeah, I've seen it.
The one other question that I got to ask the group of kids was I was actually very curious about this because I haven't seen or read a ton of the behind the scenes stuff about this show, was how Neil, the character portrayed by Robert Timothy Smith, because he's the only kid who doesn't get to show his face on screen. I wanted to know what that experience was like for him on set.
So instead of getting makeup, I would have a camera rig, and I would basically be a helmet with like a little bar right here and two like cameras, and they would just basically record my facial expressions and then put them on Neil. I would also just wear the outfit, and then I would also have my Neil hands, which were completely disgusting because I would have to spray my hand with water, I'd have to spray the glove with a bunch of water, and then I'd have to go in there. That never sounds right saying that. Anyway, I would have to do that, and it would be really weird, and it would be slimy, and I didn't like that, but, you know...
He beat us in Thumb Wars, though.
Yeah, I would beat him a lot of Thumb Wars. Yeah, because my
I love Neil already, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Neil Nation.
That's so cool.
Well, that was fascinating. And then for more behind the scenes info, just please check out the 2 roundtable videos on our YouTube channel. You can just search YouTube Skywalking Through Neverland, and you will see Mike there.
Oh, thank you, Mike, once again.
Sure,
All right,
it was a pleasure.
We know that they've taken from the Goonies. What other 80s films do they parallel in Skeleton Crew?
Besides E.T., which they have cited as one of the major influences, there's also a Joe Dante movie called Explorers. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but I remember watching that as a kid, and that I feel like is a pretty big influence on Skeleton Crew because it's about children who I think they build their own spaceship. I haven't seen it in decades. They build their own spaceship and they kind of get shot off into a distant galaxy,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
feels
wow.
very much like the plot of Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one vibe I was getting was Stand By Me, which is the ultimate coming of age story. And when they remake it, not if, but when they remake Stand By Me, you know it's going to be 2 boys and 2 girls.
Okay.
And by the end of their adventure, they've really grown as people.
Oh, Stand By Me.
Stand By Me,
Okay.
yes. The 4 kids go off in search of this body, and all sorts of coming of age things happen. And when they come back, it's like, you know, at this point, they've just grown into 4 different individuals.
Okay. You know, it's giving me vibes of Hook a little bit because Hook for me was your Goonies, Mike.
Okay.
So I like really related to Hook. And it's more about the pirates in Hook. So, you know, they have to deal with pirates. They have to deal with Captain Hook, which is funny that Jude Law actually played Captain Hook in a remake now of Peter Pan.
Well, David Lowery, the director of Peter
Yes.
Pan and Wendy, which also starred Jude Law, came in and directed this show about pirates and kids and Jude Law.
And Jude Law, yeah. So it's giving me a little vibes of that, but mostly it's the music that's really giving me the Hook vibes because Hook was very adventurous music, soundtracked by John Williams, and it had very fun, adventurous music. You had like pirate jigs, and in this one, you get this amazing sea shanty tune for the Skeleton Crew that Mick Giacchino, who is Mike Giacchino's son, has composed, and it's so cool. Like I love this pirate jig.
I guess my coming of age movie would be Star Wars.
Oh yeah, okay. So it definitely relates to Star Wars, Richard.
How so?
That's funny.
All right, so we have these films narrowed down, but now let's talk about the connections, the parallels, the tropes that they have borrowed for Skeleton Crew. Now, I'm going to start off by saying you're going to have the dreamer. The dreamer who wants to get away from their ordinary world. And they think in a way like, oh, I wish I could do this. But then when they finally do get to go to this adventure, I think all the dreaming, whether it be Luke Skywalker or Mikey from Goonies, I think they can maneuver their way through because they've dreamt about it so long that they know how to position themselves to get through this adventure. So I'm going to go with the dreamer. I don't want to say cliche, but let's say trope.
Well, it's like it's in myth. It's like that trope in myth,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
you got to have these.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Mike?
I'm going to say bicycles and walkie-talkies.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Down to the bike with the little
The tassels.
tassels.
Yeah, and
Tassels
the
on the
basket
handle.
on the bike.
Yeah.
Oh, when I first saw that, the tassels on Wim's speeder, it's like, I remember that. I had that.
Yeah. And I'm going to say the connections to me are like the pirate stuff. This connects to Goonies and it connects to Hook. Wim was exploring the ship. He and Neil find pirate hats and they put them on their heads. They've been sitting there and they're filled with caked
But
dust.
they're
and it's
10-year-old
disgusting.
kids. They don't care about dust
ah!
and dirt.
I think I yelled at the screen. I was like, why are you putting that on your head?
Girls wouldn't do that. Boys would be like, dust, dirt, blood. I don't care what it is. On my head it goes.
All right,
Because he's the dreamer. He doesn't care about that.
Well, it's gross. All right.
Well, no.
But he also has a pirate compass, which looks like Jack Sparrow's pirate compass. We don't see a close up, but like from the outline of it, it's like, oh, that looks just like. But why do they need a compass in space? Very
I
interesting.
actually have a fun tidbit about that I haven't told anyone before.
Oh, exclusive.
This is an exclusive, and it's a very fun one that I don't know if anyone knows this outside of Lucasfilm, because I told you, I met Dave Filoni yesterday in Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, and he saw the Jedi compass. Where is it? I have it.
Oh.
I don't know. It's somewhere on my shelf. The Jedi compass that's in Star Wars.
The Last Jedi?
It first appeared in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and then it shows up in The Last Jedi. You are correct. There is a replica of that prop that you can buy in Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. And I saw Dave Filoni go over and pick it up, and he told the story of how this came about, that Rian Johnson, I guess, needed a Jedi compass for the movie, and Dave Filoni was the one who sketched it out and designed the basic sketch of that prop for the movie. I don't know if that information is out there, but I heard Dave Filoni talking about it in public, so I think it's fair game.
It is now.
Yeah, but that's, I think, when I saw this compass that the kids pick up in the pirate quarters on the ship, my mind immediately went to that compass, which we've seen in other Star Wars material.
What does it show then? I mean, it's not north-south.
I think it's kind of like a star compass. So you're like navigating by the stars and their relative position to each other. That would be my guess.
Got to go to Galaxy's Edge and pick one up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So,
So,
possibly this is a Jedi compass that Dave Filoni designed.
Yeah.
I love it.
In a subtle merchandise push.
Wow.
I don't know for sure whether he designed the one in Skeleton Crew, but he did talk about designing the one in the film.
Got it.
In Last Jedi.
Okay, going back to the characters, we know that Wim is the dreamer, and I know it's a cliche, but it's the fun cliche of having the characters relate to the Goonies characters, whereas Neil, he is the scaredy cat like Chunk was in Goonies.
Yeah.
And
he's kind of the
comic
Millhouse.
relief. Yeah. Yeah. You have Mouth, played by Corey Feldman. He's the Fern character because they're more the the cool kids.
Are they the bad boy?
They're
the
the
tough
bad
guy.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah, tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Who can they outthink the opponent. They're fast thinkers.
Okay.
Because I think they're so smart. Their minds just go and they know how to outthink, like Fern did with Neil and Wim. She got them to dig out the hull for the starship. It's like a very Tom Sawyer thing. It's like, well, you know what? You boys are stronger, so
You're not as strong. They're like, oh no, we're strong. We can dig it out.
Yeah, exactly.
She used reverse psychology on them. But in this one, she plays the captain. She decides to tell the Smee, the droid, that she killed the captain, and yeah. So she's the storyteller too.
She's more of the outspoken ones.
Okay.
If they're approached by adults, who's the first one to step out? It's going to be Mouth, or it's going to be Fern to get them out of a situation. Because like we know that Fern is at the top of her class. Her mother said, "You're top of your class. You got to stay there." I think she's so smart that normal situations bore her, so she creates her own drama, her own. I'm gonna redirect this narrative to the way I want it to be, like telling the droid Smee, "Hey, I'm captain of this ship. I'm captain now."
Yep. Very nice. And then KB, of course, is like Data, the gadget kid, like you said. Yeah.
The Geordie LaForge
visor.
Data.
/ Lobot visor.
Yeah. I'm just glad she didn't have all those gadgets like Data did.
Oh my God, that was funny.
Yeah.
All right.
And extra special shout out to Wim's dad, who's got those giant 80s glasses.
Oh, I didn't realize that. You're right.
I loved those. You hardly ever see glasses in Star Wars. You saw them in Ewoks Battle for Endor. You saw them on Andor. And now you see them now on Wim's dad.
The glasses and the bike helmet seemed very earthly to me. Like they didn't really change those much at all from what you would see in the real world.
Right. So So there's been a lot of the cliches and tropes, but Mike, were there any twists or surprises in these 2 episodes but you didn't see coming?
I did not expect the whole mystery about what is the deal with At-Aten, the planet, and why it has been like sequestered from the rest of the galaxy. I just didn't see that coming. I know there was conversation after the trailers came out about the idea of suburbia existing in the Star Wars galaxy. I didn't expect them to go like there's kind of a reason for that we haven't learned the full picture of yet. And I think we'll get little pieces of that, and the puzzle will start to complete itself as we go through the rest of the season here. But yeah, this, like you said before, the description of the show calls it a seemingly safe planet. Is that what you said?
Yes.
But that very much comes into play. There's a barrier that literally prevents ships from coming in, although it doesn't seem to prevent ships from leaving. But the droids do say that no starships are allowed to come and go from this planet. So we know there has been very little, if any, contact with the rest of the galaxy for some time.
Well, they're very sheltered. They don't know about the bigger galactic occurrences.
Yeah, if no one can come or go, like, how wow.
They're very sequestered.
Yeah. And how long has they been sequestered? That's another mystery box question.
Yes. And even on the planet itself, there are areas where people are not supposed to go. Like the droids come upon the dad after he's seen the spaceship take off, and they say, "Oh, this is a restricted area. Like nobody's supposed to be." So there are parts of the planet where even people are not supposed to venture into.
Since this is part of the Mandoverse, I think this planet is going to connect somehow to the Mandalorian story. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think what is being hidden on this planet is going to connect directly to the Mandoverse, and may even tie into Ahsoka season 2, or it may even tie into the Mandalorian and Grogu film.
That would be cool. And also, it's interesting how everyone on that planet is being groomed to like deal with money in some way, I guess. Like an analyst or a systems analyst or a senior...
Or an analyst.
Yeah. Some sort of security or... Yeah, it was very, very odd. And Wim's like, I just want to help people.
The droid's like, we got droids for that.
Yeah. So, it's like all the people... So maybe there really is treasure on this planet, and... who knows? This is crazy. And then the lunch money, becomes this big deal. Like, you better save that lunch money, Wim.
Yeah.
Don't be using it willy-nilly.
And now everyone at that spaceport goes crazy. Like, you have Old Republic credits?
Mint condition?
Mint condition?
Yeah.
It's like, Wim's like, yeah, I'll get this R2-D2 Kenner figure mint condition as well. Is this worth anything? That part was cut out. All right, now we got to get into this. Mike, Easter eggs. Mike.
Okay.
Sarah.
Should we
Mike?
like go around saying one each?
Yes.
Like, or in a round table like fashion.
Okay, Mike, you're our guest. What was your favorite Easter egg? Hurry up before I explode.
I think my favorite one has to be, because I'm such a Disney Parks fan, when they get into the brig for the first shot of them in the brig, you can hear the whistling from Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland.
Like the dog whistle.
When they're trying to attract the dog that has the key, you can hear. I've been on that ride countless times, and it immediately jumped out to me, and I would be shocked if that was not an intentional reference to the ride Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, it definitely is
It
intentional.
definitely is.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's someone recreating that. It sounds so much like what you hear on the Pirates ride.
And they definitely made the brig cells look like the Pirates of the Caribbean cells a little bit.
Yeah.
And the fact that they used the little rat creature, like, you can go get it. They used an animal to try to get the key, and they never get the key.
Yeah.
Just like the dog will never get the key.
I'm very embarrassed. I didn't hear that the first time around,
Oh,
and Sarah
it's buried
paused
in the
it.
mix.
Yeah, and said, "Did you hear that?" It's like, hear what? And then when you played it back, it's like, how did I miss that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can I say my favorite reference?
Yeah, please.
Which I got, like, so we watched these screeners with the subtitles, and when the power converter goes bad on
Fern's
speeder, and she and KB are working on it in the garage, and those biker guys come up and
those
like
bad boy
tease them.
kids.
They tease them like, "Oh, you're not gonna be ready for the race on Saturday." She's like, "I'll be ready," and then they talk after the boys leave, and KB's like, "Yeah, Bunch Falfa, blah blah blah." I was like, "Oh!" My brain exploded because it's like Bob Falfa.
I ain't nobody, dork, right?
And in American Graffiti reference. So it's an American Graffiti reference.
Is it an American Graffiti and a Harrison
and a
Ford
Harrison
reference?
Ford reference, because Harrison Ford plays Bob Falfa in American Graffiti. They famously have the race with the kids in that movie, and so the Bonj Falfa, Bob Falfa, I like freaked out.
Now, when we first heard that,
Yes, we got it.
We both looked at each other like, did
Yeah.
they just say what we thought they just said?
Yeah. So then we went back and just made sure and
Yeah.
like turned on the subtitles, and it's like Bonj
Falfa.
Falfa. Yeah. But it was amazing.
I did not pick up on that my first viewing, but I didn't watch it with the subtitles until the second time, which is usually how I do it, to better absorb all the dialogue. And then when I saw the spelling of the name, I took a picture of my screen. I sent it to you guys. I was like,
Yeah.
American Graffiti. And you were like, yep.
It was fun. That's like a real, I don't know, it's just a little gift in there for fans of like George Lucas in general, or
Right,
those
yeah.
of us who have been following those Spielberg, Lucas, like all the films that he's done.
I love a good THX 1138 homage, but this is okay. We've done that so many times.
Yes.
Let's now pivot toward American Graffiti.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
So
that wasn't the only American Graffiti reference. You see in the back when the kids are going to school, there's Mel's Diner.
in Aurebesh.
In Aurebesh, it says Mel's
I missed
Diner.
that.
Like we see in Attack of the Clones.
I have to add that to my list.
So not only that, I'm going to go back to 1985's Ewoks, The Battle for Endor. And hold on one second. I've always wondered, why did they have a teak plush at D23 Expo? It seems very, very random. And I even asked some of the people who worked there, and said, what's the backstory on this? Hoping they would know. They said, oh, it's the 40th anniversary of Ewoks Battle for Endor. And of course, I had to pull up my copy of Today in Star Wars History and say, no, this is the 39th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
But we know now that they have a teak figure because we saw the teak species in Skeleton Crew. This was the fairy creature that brings the shuttle with the kids to the spaceport, and that shuttle is it's piloted by a teak character. And we knew going in that these creatures were going to be seen, but I didn't know how were they going to show these creatures, and they used a smaller version than they did in the Ewoks Battle for Endor, where it was Nikki Patello in the little Teak outfit. This
Right.
was a puppet. So it's been a while since we've seen Teak in the Star Wars universe. He's got Battle for Endor and Star Tours, and time just forgot about Teak.
SM33 calls him a wee ferryman, and I got a kick out of that.
Oh, that's so cute. All right, Mike, is there another reference you'd like to bring up?
Oh, yes. I have a long list of great Easter eggs on Laughing Place. I'm just going through them.
Yeah, we're not going to say them all here because there's videos for that. There's your articles for that.
Yeah, we'll each do 30 apiece.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I really like the detail of the droid tattoo artist, which is that episode 2? Yeah, it is episode 2. It's the same model as 8D8, the droid from Return of the Jedi, and he's tattooing the Hutt cartel insignia on a Klatooinian pirate in Port Borgo, the pirate port. And I just really love that bit. The droid himself has tattoos all over him, and he tries to cover for himself when he messes up when the kids like rush past him. He's like, "Oh no, it looks great." I just thought that was really funny.
That's another deep dive Easter egg that no one had applauded last night at our screening. After most of the Easter eggs, the fans would all clap. But when they showed that, it was a pretty good close up on that tattoo and silence. And we were like, okay, come on, everyone, let's cheer for this one. This is a Hutt tattoo here.
Yeah.
If I were to get a tattoo, I think it might be that Hutt cartel tattoo.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Does Tori know this?
I think I've mentioned it to her, and she was like, "The Hutt's gross."
Yeah, that's my feel. I'm with Tori on this
You
one.
got to run by any kind of tattoo selection by the wife first. All right, there's a ton of other Disney park references. Well, the RX droid who drives the shuttle is the school bus.
Yep.
When everyone sticks gum to its head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, come on, kids.
Yeah, and then the Captain EO.
How are you kids brought up?
And then the Captain EO reference.
Yeah, Fuzzball.
Fuzzball.
But is that in episode 3?
Nope, that's in episode 2.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. And
when
then
you watch
all
them all together,
fuzzballs-
they collide.
But then all the fuzzballs are released at the end of that, when the kids are like rushing by and stuff.
Now, when you go on Pirates of the Caribbean, one of the first tableaus you see is a pirate up against the wall with a sword right through their chest. And what's one of the first skeletons they see on the Onyx Cinder is a skeleton pirate with a sword right through the chest in the same kind of position, too. So they're pulling a lot from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. With the dog whistle and now the pirate.
Absolutely. And I would say that's also from Goonies a little bit.
Yeah.
But also pulling from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. What do we hear when we're watching when we're on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride? Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. It's a little sea shanty tune. And while the sea shanty tune in Skeleton Crew is not based, it's not that, it's not referencing that, but it is a sea shanty tune that you need for Star Wars pirates. So they kind of have that same idea. Like pirates in space also sing cool sea shanties.
Oh, of course. Now we won't spoil too many of the Easter eggs. We'll just tell you that there's a big classic Marvel Star Wars comics Easter egg coming in episode 3.
Yes. And, oh my God.
I think the holiday special one is my favorite Easter egg, but this next one is a close second.
Up there.
Yeah.
All right. I believe the actual text from Trisha Barr, when she had watched that episode before we had watched it, she said, "Richard is going to lose his mind." And then we watched it. And you did. Yes.
Right.
All right. I do have to ask you, Mike, about one more of these references.
Okay.
Now, Undersecretary Farah, she mentions great work. And Republic Chancellor Lena So in the Star Wars High Republic novels mentions great works. And so I wondered, do you think these are connected? And what are the great works?
And this is why we have you on for these High Republic connections.
Yes.
So basically the great works in the High Republic, first of all, the High Republic novels and comics take place, I want to say 200 years before the movies, like before the prequel trilogy. I think I'm remembering that right. There's so much Star Wars to consume; it all kind of gets jumbled around in my head. But the great works, the chancellor at that period, her name is Lena So, and she has this campaign of basically improving the galaxy and expanding the galaxy into the outer rim, and she has all these projects that further that goal. One of them is called Starlight Beacon. It's a big space station that is created by the Republic and is manned by the Jedi Order in the outer rim to kind of bring order to that part of the galaxy and help the Jedi to kind of maintain peace and justice as they do. There's also like communications improvements with the outer rim. There's also a galactic fair. Sorry, the Republic Fair was one of the great works as well, and that's kind of like a World's Fair that we have in the real world. But basically, all these projects were intended to improve life for all of the citizens of the Republic at that time. And they do talk about a great work in Skeleton Crew in regards to the planet at Aten. And we know from these first two episodes that, like we mentioned before, this planet is kind of sequestered from the rest of the galaxy. I also noticed this mural. I don't know if you guys have looked closely in that character's home. Farah is her name, I think, and her daughter is Fern. And there's a mural. It looks like maybe one of those characters in the mural might represent Chancellor Lena So. I'm kind of pausing it and looking at it. There are also like alien species in there, and they look to be doing something important. You see this kind of thing if you go to like Rockefeller Center in New York. You see murals of like human advancement and human society improvement, that kind of thing. So whatever is going on this planet, and the reason it's been set aside and kept cloistered from the rest of the galaxy, I think that may have something to do with the great works as enacted during the High Republic era.
That would
That's
make
my thought right now.
sense because of those, those credits that are Old Republic and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious about
And it was that same artistic style as that Rebels famous mural. It's like they got the same artist to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
All right. I do have to mention one more little thing.
Okay, but make it wizard.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, I thought you were gonna mention the music. I was trying to roll 2 Easter eggs into one. I'm sorry.
I already mentioned the music. No, yeah. So Wim says wizard about Fern's bike. Well, that worked too. That's so funny. Okay. All right. Well, let's round this out by asking you how this show stacks up for you in with the other Star Wars TV shows right now.
I think it's going to be pretty high up there for me. I think The Mandalorian, I'm pretty much judging these based on how much they feel like Star Wars to me in spirit. And I think The Mandalorian is probably number 1 when it comes to that. And this might be number 2 as far as like giving me that Star Wars feeling, it does have, like you mentioned before, Sarah, the hero's journey, mythological narrative beats that we are familiar with from a lot of the Star Wars stories. So it uses that as kind of like the backbone, the spine to tell the story. But yeah, all the other elements just feel so very Star Wars to me, even though so much of it is stuff that we haven't seen. We've never really, other than like the Ewok movies, we haven't really had Star Wars where kids are the protagonist before, in the current canon at least. And then the suburbia thing, it's not something we've really seen a lot of before in Star Wars, but I do think they have made those things work and made them feel very much of the galaxy far, far away that we're familiar with. So for those reasons, it's ranking pretty highly. And just outside of considering it as a Star Wars, as an element of the Star Wars franchise, I do think on a filmmaking level, it is really well put together and really well executed. I think the visual effects are almost seamless now. Even the stuff that I know is CGI, as far as like the creatures go, is looking pretty good. Like we're getting to the point where the seams are almost invisible to me between the real practical effects and the CGI accents that they're putting on them. Like I know Neil is really there in person, he's a real costume, but they've given him CGI mouth movements.
Accentuated his facial movements.
Yeah, exactly. It's very close to being seamless to me, so I like that about it a lot. And yeah, the cast is so great. I'm really loving the show a lot. So it might be, I think Andor is wonderful, and I can't wait for season 2 of that show. But that's a show that I think is amazing and great outside of Star Wars, but doesn't necessarily feel like Star Wars to me. And for that reason, Skeleton Crew might rank a little bit higher for me. So it might go Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, Andor right now, but it remains to be seen how the rest of the season plays out.
Okay.
Yeah, I always love the first couple of episodes of a new Star Wars show because it just gives us so much new stuff. This gives you Star Wars in suburbia. When they first pull out of that neighborhood, it just says, this is 80s style poltergeist ET. And I love that because we've never seen that before. A neighborhood in Star Wars? You see an Ithorian walking a frog dog? How does this happen? And your mind just explodes because you're seeing so much new stuff that expands Star Wars. And most of all, it's fun. It's so much fun seeing all these new things. I could go on to each show and say how much I loved the first 2 episodes because they just broaden out Star Wars.
Like The Mandalorian, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ahsoka, even Book of Boba Fett, Andor. There's I can't narrow it down, and each one gives us something new. Like this time for Skeleton Crew, have we ever seen anyone vomit in Star Wars before? No, but here it is. And Andor, I know it's a couple of episodes in, but there's a guy taking a leak on the side of the trail. You see a one night stand in Star Wars.
You also get cursing.
Yeah.
We know how much you love that.
Okay, that's why I tell them, okay, put the brakes on, people. You don't need to go that new, okay?
Well, I agree with you that this series is fun. It's one of the reasons I love Solo: A Star Wars Story is that it just has that fun to Star Wars that you remember watching it. It's why you come back over and over again to watch that original trilogy because it's just fun. It's fun to watch. And I feel like this series has that in spades. And I mean, Ahsoka and Andor and later seasons of Mandalorian even are very serious. Has a serious tone where you can really dig into the storytelling, but you have to be focused on it. Whereas I think Skeleton Crew, you can just enjoy and have a fun ride. So it's hard to compare those two though. It kind of depends what mood you're in.
Right.
So yeah, right now it is ranking it, I would say, in the top 3 for me as well. Yeah, maybe Andor. I can't even do it. I can't do it.
I think it all comes down to expanding the Star Wars universe. Yeah. And each one has got so much they add to the lore that as a longtime fan, you're just so excited to see the galaxy explode.
Yeah.
All right, so Mike, before we wrap up here, what is coming up on Who's the Bossk?
Back tomorrow, 1 p.m. I don't know if you're going to release this in time to promote this. 1 p.m. tomorrow Pacific time. Holly Fry is going to be joining me to talk about Skeleton Crew, and weekly thereafter we'll have episodes discussing each episode of this new live-action Disney Plus Star Wars series. Very excited to talk about this on my podcast. Thank you for having me on yours to talk about it as well.
You are very welcome, and you can follow Mike at Laughing Place, and also where on Instagram, Mike, or other locations?
Blue Sky.
Yeah, I'm on
Blue
Instagram and Threads at Who's the Bossk Pod. I did sign up for Blue Sky now. It's just Who's the Bossk there, but I have not been posting there a lot. I don't know. There's too many of these things.
It's true.
And what is your handle on Blue Milk? My handle, my stance is I love blue milk.
All right, so our overall opinions, everyone, on Skeleton Crew, is it Wizard?
Wizard!
Yeah, I'm Dave Filoni, and you're skywalking through Neverland. Thank you.
Shoutouts, Skywalker shoutouts. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who has tweeted out? Shout out. Who has photobombed? Shout out. Who has shared a post? Shout out.
All right, now this is one of our favorite aspects of the show, where we get to give the Skywalking Force their due respect with the shoutouts.
That's right. Every month we shout you out, those members of the Skywalking Force. There are 46 of you.
Oh, that's growing.
I was like, holy buckets. Wow. So many, many thanks to Anthony Kakias,
Blessed Cheesemaker,
Bryn McKinnon,
Carl Fox,
Chica Fent,
Christopher Marino,
Courtney Turkel,
Dale Erdman,
Darren Irvine,
Dave Kerwin,
Don Glover,
Derek Beebe,
Garrett Sessions,
Glenn Stein. Hey, Glenn.
Hey. Jeremy and Heather Hunt,
John Liang,
John Zancanaro,
Jonathan Chiato,
Jordan Paley,
Julie Caruana,
Julie and James Gildersleeve,
Justin Smith,
Cato Toby Ryder,
Kelly Turkel,
Kristen Carr, Happiest Club on Earth,
Laura Bryce,
Leanne Nelson,
Meredith Duckworth,
Michael Corbett,
Michael Knipp,
Mike Ward,
Nancy Steinman,
Patrick Pine,
Patty Hammond,
Patty Nazarian,
Peter and Norma Heitman,
Reynold Gobet,
Robert Avia,
Ryan Wiltberger,
Sasha Barrios,
Scott Carmichael,
Scott Hume,
Taryn Bench,
Wesley Meekholmes,
William Magalio,
and Wynn Patterson. Thank you to one and to all. Can't say it enough. You Skywalking Force members are the guiding force of Skywalking through Neverland.
That is absolutely right.
The secret sauce, as George Lucas said.
I love it. Well, that wraps up episode 494 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
We want to thank Mike Celestino from Who's the Bossk podcast, and we want to thank all you Skywalkers for watching and listening and liking. We love it.
Now you can find us on social media at Skywalking Pod. And where are we with Blue Sky?
We're on it because I wanted to grab the name, but we never post there.
Oh.
So
Okay.
you can say hi to us. You can tag us. I don't know if I'll ever find it.
Okay, maybe soon, because people seem to be talking about Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's fine. All right.
All right, now, do you have things that you want to share? Well, we do. Join us every Monday at 6 p.m. on YouTube as we go live with
Things We Want to Share.
We update you with what's going on in our lives, the things we've been attending, and then we invite you Skywalkers to come on and share what you want to share. Glenn Stein comes on all the time and shares his Spider-Gwen collection. People come on and share a new book they've written, a new website they've created.
Or just something they've experienced, or even, a new collectible. It's always fun. This is the giving season, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are going to have lots of things to share.
Now, it is December, so that Monday may shift to a Sunday or a Tuesday.
Yes. In fact, this week we aren't even able to do a things we want to share. But next week, the week of December 7th or 8th, we'll let you know when the next things we want to share is.
Now, are you interested in our books? Well, autographed copies of Today in Star Wars History, Part 1 and 2, and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook, are available now from skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book. Or if you meet us at an event, we can hand deliver them to you like we did last night at the Skeleton Crew premiere.
That's right. Now, would you also like your name read every month or your name in our YouTube videos? Well, you can support Skywalking Through Neverland through the Skywalking Force, which is our Patreon. And the Skywalking Force has access to bonus content in the form of past Zoom discussions on Disney Plus shows. You guys also get coupon codes to use for our books. And this bonus content has different levels. So check it out. Go to skywalkingforce.com, have a look at the options. And thank you so much to those of you who are part of the Skywalking Force.
Now, we want to thank our sponsor once again, Small World Vacations, for their continued support. Thinking of a trip to a Disney park or a Disney cruise or a Universal theme park? You can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today. Their vacation planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now we are part of the Skywalking Network. Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes,
The Max Effects Podcast,
The Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
Star Warsologies,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and Today in Star Wars History. Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember,
Neverland on Alderaan. Here we go. The announcement of a new 80s style Star Wars series was announced.
Wait, we need to add Mike on.
Oh.
All right, bye,
yes.
Mike.
Mike is in that Superman 2 vortex. He's in a mirror somewhere floating around.
Oh, too bad that was not recorded. That was cute. Okay. All right, here we go.
Oh no. I got the giggles.
Well, that wraps up episode 494 of...
Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.